up, geeks and gamers? It is your boy Q
and QMG.
And we're here to bring you guys into the Q-universe where we talk to you guys about everything geeky, gamey, and nerdy. And what up, the Q-universe? You guys are tuning in today. Once again, I love seeing you guys' beautiful faces on this podcast. This lovely Sunday. What up, Ken? What up, Carson? Appreciate you guys for tuning in. But now, before we start, thank you guys so much for your love and support tuning in. Ski, Uncle V, appreciate you guys for tuning in.
That light's kind of blinding me in the face trying to look at it.
Yup, you
like my glasses kind of clear.
I'm sorry, man. We need that lighting. But yeah, so we're back. So we're gonna start it off a little bit with. I'm gonna start off since you started off the synopsis last week. BlizzCon was this weekend. For everybody who doesn't know about BlizzCon, Blizzard is a gaming corporation who's created such games as Diablo 1, 2, and 3, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, some of those games just to name, and some of the best RPGs we've seen in our lifetime. Kumani, do you got anything to say about Blizzard before I go into the synopsis of what's going on with BlizzCon?
Not really. I'm not really that much into Blizzard. It's not really something that I've really paid too much attention to as far as their games go. I know that things such as World of Warcraft and Overwatch are very high, and their affiliation with Activision, now that is Activision Blizzard, they're responsible now for a lot of the Activision games that come out. But other than that, I'm not too keen on...
Jared, appreciate you for tuning in. Brittany, thanks for tuning in.
I'm not too keen on that entirely. I'm not too keen on Blizzard.
Yeah.
I respect some of their. Well, I'll say this. I'll say the reason why I'm not too keen on Blizzard nowadays is because of there's a situation with one of their esports players, and he's trying.
Thank you, Vaughn. You gotta say it.
I can't see it.
Oh, thank you, Vaughn.
I can't see the light there in my face.
Oh, here we go.
So it ain't gonna be no guys. Probably won't hear no.
Thank you, Vaughn. I'll say it for you. All right.
But yeah, a Chinese esports player who plays Overwatch. He was, for those who don't know, there's been massive protests over the past couple of months over in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And he was very outspoken against the people that were causing that was accosting the civilians in Hong Kong, and he spoke out on it. And Blizzard completely reprimanded him, dropped him from their teams, and distanced themselves from that. And that angered a lot of people, and including those who work internally in Blizzard. And this has been a major thing. I know for those who pay attention to basketball, that's seeped over into there because Daryl Morey, the owner of the Houston Rockets, he also shared the opinion that that he didn't agree with some of the practices that were going on in Hong Kong, and there were certain businesses that were kind of against speaking out because it would affect their bottom line, even though civilians were being accosted because of these situations.
So you're not a big fan of Blizzard right now, needless to say.
Needless to say, no. I still maintain that Tracer should end up being a character in Smash simply because of the representation and the eyes that would be brought to both Smash and the character of Tracer. But as far as Blizzard in and of itself, I'm not too fond of it.
Well, definitely.
But I didn't say my part of the intro. I just thought about that. I didn't say anything cool. So let me just say,
make sure you say something cool. Make sure you say something cool.
Yeah, because the light's blinding me in the face, y'all. We're trying to make it all good, but then I forgot that I didn't clean up my glasses before starting the show, so the light's kind of blinding me. So I'm gonna be squinting a lot looking at y'all. So it's not because I'm like
that's definitely not cool.
I can't.
I thought you was gonna say something cool, but anyway, go ahead and say your intro, man. So we can get started.
That was the intro.
Wow. Anyway, okay. Well, BlizzCon was last week. I mean, this week, Blizzard, like as we said, Blizzard has games such as Overwatch and Diablo. But with that being said, me and QMG were discussing. There is a turn in the tide because this new Overwatch, for people who haven't played Overwatch, is a game. A first-person shooting game where characters of various stats and powers go and help each other. But with this game, number 1 and number 2 will both be able to be played with each other. Like, say if I had Overwatch 1 and QMG had Overwatch 2, which is a brand new game, new characters, everything, he would still be able to play with me on the multiplayer aspect of the game. So we would still be able to play with each other through different iterations of the game, and all of his costume that he garnered over season 1, and I mean of the game, the first game, and all of the other ones will be transferred over. So with that begs the question: are we out of the age where games have 3 years down the line a number 2, or 4 years down the line the next generation, as far as like Grand Theft Auto 1, 2, and 3? Or are we in an age of gaming where now it's just we update the game incrementally through its life cycle until there is no more game, period? So
shout out to my big Marquita showing up.
Appreciate you, Quita. Appreciate you for tuning in. Sean wants to know if your jacket was velvet. He said you be fresh.
Nah, this ain't a velvet. This just regular old hoodie.
Just a regular old hoodie.
Regular old Deathstroke hoodie from Teen Titans, but that's about it.
As far probably know more about this. Sean Axel asks, is there a new Earthworm Jim coming out?
Not that I've heard of.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything specifically on it either, but I wouldn't be surprised if we probably get a remaster of Earthworm Jim, just because of the fact that we're in an age where everything is being remastered. If you love those 90s games, there's also a lot of remasters. Crash Bandicoot on the Switch was remastered. Medieval just got remastered. Yeah. Spyro the Dragon was remastered. But for Crash Bandicoot in general, pretty much the whole series is remastered on the Switch. So go check that out for all my people who haven't checked out remastered games. Jalen, appreciate you for tuning in. But back to what I was saying. So that begs the question, with Blizzard implementing these games actually being able to be played generation after generation after generation without being a whole new title, where does that leave gaming going forward? Are there going to be new games, or do you feel like we're going to constantly get incremental updates? And this isn't the only game that's done this. Look at Monster Hunter World, Iceborne. A lot of people I've heard play it say this almost like a totally different game, but it's still the same physical disc, still the same Monster Hunter World game. Look at Destiny, Destiny 2. All of the expansions, a lot of people say those expansions are adding a lot to the game as almost like a sequel.
Well, I think you conflated two different things, but trying to make the same point. With Destiny as far as Destiny goes, when we're talking about that was more seen as a slight than something like that was more seen as a slight than a honest to God thing people would want to see in the future. Yep. It's not that the fact that people would say, "Oh, Destiny 2, just Destiny 1 with more features." No, they were expecting a legitimate upgrade, a legitimately new game based off of what they got with Destiny 1. But like we were talking about very briefly earlier, with Overwatch 2, I'm sorry, I just thought about this example. It's kind of like with Fortnite Chapter 2. They're both the Fortnite Chapter 2. For those who don't know, they were touting it as a completely new experience.
It's not,
and in some areas it is, but that's why they were justifying calling it Chapter 2 or Fortnite 2, which a lot of people like Ninja and Shroud, two of the most prominent Fortnite players out, were addressing it.
Hold that small thought. Jalen asked, would you rather choose PUBG or Call of Duty Mobile? I'll answer first. Actually, it depends on how you feel. If you play PUBG already, you'll like PUBG Mobile. I've heard a lot of people like it. It's not as responsive, obviously, because you're using the phone, and they have other third-party options, but Call of Duty Mobile is really good. I play that one personally myself, and I love it. I feel like it's one of the best mobile games I think I've ever played. Like, definitely, from my own personal experience, try Call of Duty Mobile. QMG?
I have no interest in playing, nor have I played either. So I can't really give you an opinion on that.
But you play Call of Duty, and it's really like Call of Duty. So it's definitely, I feel like, try Call of Duty first if you guys play Call of Duty mostly, and then try to dab your foot in PUBG Mobile. But yeah, back to what you're saying.
Where was I? Oh yeah, I was talking about and that's what it is. Unless. And with a game like Overwatch, it can kind of get away with it more so than a game like Destiny, and the same goes for Fortnite too. It can get away with it, is that unless they're doing a complete system overhaul, a mechanic overhaul, or graphical overhaul, then they can get away with just basically calling it a sequel, but not really having to make a new physical disc or make you pay $60 odd to buy another copy of the game and call it 2. They can just say, oh, well, this is Overwatch 2 and then Overwatch 3 and so on and so forth. And I believe that is not the future of video games, but in the type of video games that doesn't require a lot of things like single player content or any other robust functions outside of the main thing that they're promoting, then I do think they can do that. It's like fighting games, really. Like, you see a lot of fighting games back in the day where it was like Super Street Fighter 2 and then Street Fighter Championship Edition or Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 or Mortal Kombat Gold. So those were technically sequels because they changed certain aspects, but it was more or less the same as the first version, and the same could be applied to first-person shooters because that's not a lot of things. It doesn't take a lot of effort to make a very good first-person shooter. So while I don't think that'll be the trend going forward, I can see games that don't have a lot of single-player content adopting that format. Because it doesn't take so long as they're not charging $60 for it, it doesn't take that much more effort to do that if they're not trying to do something extreme with it.
Definitely. Well, for you guys who haven't heard of BlizzCon, once again, 3 major games I think you should get into from Blizzard as developers. Diablo, I've heard is really good. I haven't played that one myself, but I heard it's really good. Overwatch, I have definitely played that one for myself. And World of Warcraft has some of the most meme-worthy things. If you guys never heard Leroy Jenkins, if you've ever heard that comes from World of Warcraft, and that's from Blizzard. So, speaking on Blizzard, that was BlizzCon. Go check that out.
For sure.
Yes, now we're gonna dive into, we gotta talk about Marvel. Gotta talk about those guys. But last week, the Hollywood Reporter had all 7 major Hollywood movie executive companies in one setting, and they did an interview, but it was really fun. Hey, we appreciate you for tuning in. It was really cool because Sony and Marvel actually had an exchange where they discussed that one of the guiding factors in Spider-Man actually coming back to the MCU was the fans and the fans' passion for him making it back to the MCU. And it just showed me that a lot of times we think that our voice doesn't get heard and is very small, but it showed with this instant and the back and forth between Sony and Marvel that if we're passionate enough and not in a threatening way where we're not, hey, Cody, thanks for tuning in, where we're not actually trying to force their hand, but just expressing how passionate we are for these characters to be in this universe, that we could get heard, that we can be heard by these major corporations. So with that being said, that opens a door that I feel like we should take advantage of as far as like for the Marvel Netflix series, the Cloak and Dagger, the Runaways, all these shows that a lot of people really love. Swamp Thing and DC, if you want to take the DC route, but it definitely shows that we do have a voice. And QMG, how do you feel about knowing that our voices were actually heard at some point?
Well, that's a load of PR jargon. I know that's a load of PR jargon because that is stuff that they say. Obviously, here's my philosophy is this. It is not the fans' responsibility to correct studios from generalizing.
Yeah.
Most fans nowadays, it's very simple to discern the fans, even though I don't consider people who harass and send death threats and all of that.
I wasn't talking about those guys.
What I'm saying is I don't consider them the fan base, no matter how loud or vocal or passionate they are. Those aren't fans. And they make it very clear on where they stand in terms of their decency and type of human interaction. They make it clear about that.
Yes.
And then the same goes for the people who aren't those people. They make it clear on what they're asking for and how passionate they are. And I believe that when studios sit back and they make these statements, while it sounds well-meaning, it's just them trying to wring their hands or trying to say, come up with an excuse as to why they aren't moving heaven and earth to give paying customers what they want. with the stuff with the Marvel TV shows, no amount of protesting is going to get everything back 100%. All it, if truth be told, if these is Marvel as far as Marvel goes, if they want these characters and these actors to come back and portray these characters in the same setting that they were portraying before they got canceled, they already penciled that in to do it. Marvel, no, this has been brewing for months now. So unless they have been completely devoid of their fan opinion, they would know that there was a lot of people who did not want to see a lot of these actors and characters get tossed to the wayside.
Yeah.
So that's number one as far as that goes. Number two, there are certain decisions that these people can make that they know are going to elicit a negative response.
Yeah.
And therefore it would behoove them not to do it at all. Swamp Thing being the chief. You brought up Swamp Thing. That's the chiefest example of that. Swamp Thing, from the moment it started hitting pre-release press, it was from the moment it started release, it did pre-release press. All of the critics loved it. When the first couple of episodes dropped on DC Universe app, all of the fans loved it.
Yeah.
And they still canceled it with no official word on where it's going to come up with. And the day of, and I remember it, the day that it was announced that it was canceled, the number one trend on Twitter for
Save Swamp Thing.
Save Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Save Swamp Thing. And we still have heard hide nor hair about if it's going to be saved, because truthfully, with this new HBO Max streaming service, that is a place for Swamp Thing to be. It doesn't need to be a movie. The fans have already expressed they don't want it to be in a movie. They want it to be as it is, or as it was rather, continuing that story because of the world building, the character interactions, and all of that. And the fans have made it very clear on what they want. And and yes, you will always have people that will take things too far and say the wrong thing, but it will never, except for in rare occurrences, it will never seem, notice the word I use there, not is, but seem to be the majority.
Yeah.
And I feel like when they say these, just be paid, be kind and ask politely, fans do that. And most of the times when fans do complain, it's because they get shafted, they get shorted on the stick, and it feels like they weren't their input, their feelings on the project was not being properly reciprocated. They wasn't being properly respected, and so they have to take measures to say, no, we want to see more of this. No, we didn't want this to end. No, we want to see this changed. So while I get the sentiment of it, ultimately these guys are been around the block long enough, and they should know that if that wasn't that doesn't seem like a necessary comment to make, because they should know by now that it's not everyone, it's just some of them.
So do you feel like we're in an age where our voices are going to be heard or are being heard, or do you feel like we're a ways past that, and that these executives are just saying it for the good looks? Hey, Vario, appreciate you for tuning in, man.
Thank you. I believe that these guys are just saying these things to make it seem like they are caring.
Yeah.
That they're just making it seem like they're saying these things to try to make it seem like A, they're listening, and B, that they are trying their best, but they just need us to stick it out a little bit longer and they can get it done maybe, and if not, they can't. When in reality, they probably could, but they're just trying not to. And I'm going to give you a prime example of that later on in the show, what I'm talking about. But yeah, as far as the TV show, if these guys are trying to say, just ask us nicely and we'll give it to us, that's been proven that that's not their main concern, because there have been many positive campaigns to get stuff brought back, and it rarely ever gets done correctly, if at all. So that's my thoughts and opinions on it.
Okay. Well, I definitely could see where you're coming from, because I definitely feel like there is ways that these corporations and these movie execs definitely say things to get you behind them, because when they know they have the potential to really mess things up. Just like Amy Pascal, one of our favorite moments is when Kevin Feige said Venom was definitely not a part of the MCU, and probably not even a month later, I don't know, not even a week later, they were on the same show or
They
interviewed.
were getting interviewed.
Yeah, they were getting interviewed. And Amy Pascal came out and said, yes, Venom is definitely a part of the MCU. And they had to backtrack a lot of things and move a lot of things to make sure that Venom was stated not to be in the MCU. But they always try to say a lot of things, in some instances, to make us happy, to keep us comfortable. So I definitely agree with you on that. But I think we do have more of a voice at this point in time. I think we do got more of a voice, and we got a lot to say. And I feel like if we talk enough, especially with Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, 4chan, YouTube, all these outlets, not saying they're the most credible, but we speak on those. They're talking. So with that being said, I feel like people are being heard, but also I do feel like it has to be the right people being heard.
I don't. That's the problem right there. Well, I'm gonna get more into, like I said, I'm gonna get more into that particular part later, but it should never be the right people.
I agree. I agree totally.
It should be the people.
I agree totally.
It should never be one person just has to be the one to say it for a studio to go, okay, we'll do it. It should be, okay, the general gist of it is a lot of people want this. They're obviously expressing they will part with their hard-earned cash and or time to view this and support this. So let's make it.
At the end of the day, you already know the big wigs don't care. It's these producers and these actors who have to bring what we want to life. The big wigs in Marvel don't care. They want their money. They don't care.
But you already know how I feel. Marvel doesn't care about money. Definitely. They care about trends. And if the trend is something that they believe will make money, even though there's no sign that it will make money, they will follow it. If Marvel cared about money, then trust me, I wouldn't have been on multiple episodes of this podcast regaling how I don't think Spider-Man is a proper Spider-Man in the MCU. If they cared if they truthfully cared about money and the money that it entails too, that they truly cared about making money to the highest degree, then they wouldn't leave room for people like me to criticize their interpretation of Spider-Man.
Because they would just do it how everybody wanted them to. But everybody wouldn't be happy because of that.
No. You'll be saying no.
So you think the majority will be happy because you have to look at it?
If they gave us a Tobey Maguire or the pinnacle of Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and just had him stand next to Iron Man or Captain America, people would be happy.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the point. That's my point. The reason why so many people are not, because there are a lot of people who are not happy with MCU Spider-Man.
But that's why they're pushing so hard for these multiversal Spider-Man, because we've had Andrew Garfield, who was arguably good. A lot of people, like myself, did not like his Spider-Man, but we also have Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, who's overall probably everyone's favorite. Then we have Tom Holland, who's he's growing on a lot of people. Sean, appreciate you for tuning in. A lot of people he's growing on. So for them to push all three of those guys, that's like a match made in heaven.
But it shouldn't be that. That's my. But it shouldn't. That shouldn't be the main plan. That should be the dessert. You see what you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
It shouldn't be, because one studio made Spider-Man a sidekick, and the other studio people...
Big J, appreciate you for tuning in.
And the other studio, people just hold against them two bad things that they did over the course of 10 years. Yeah. That shouldn't be it. People should just want a proper Spider-Man, and then a Spider-Verse should be dessert. They should want Miles. They should want Peter. They should want all of that as their own individual story. But, excuse me, it shouldn't be that should be how it is, because then that's like eating ice cream every day. Eventually you don't get tired
of it. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I mean, haven't gotten tired of Spider-Verse yet, but if they do have the potential to oversaturate it if they do it wrong. So, and just based off of the fact that they almost completely botched Spider-Man being in the MCU, that proves that they have the capacity to do it wrong. So that's just my point. But speaking of money and the concept of spending money on something you really, really want to watch and something you really, really enjoy, The Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, directed by...
What accent was that you were doing?
A accent.
I like that you tried it.
Starring Joaquin Phoenix, directed by Todd Phillips, has grossed, as of yesterday, as of today.
Todd, appreciate you for tuning in, man. Thanks for tuning in.
As of today, $934 million, making it
Yes.
the far away most highest grossing R-rated film of all time, and has the very real potential by next week to make over $1 billion. And to put it into context on how massively successful that is, the Joker's budget was $66 million.
Yes.
So that is the equivalent of your homeboys shooting a home video about shooting a homemade action video. Them sending it to a theatrical release and them making back not $600 million. It's that much. They turned that much of a profit.
Well, Big J Jonathan said Joker was a joke.
Well, you in the minority. You're officially in the minority.
Yeah, you're definitely in the minority. Now, like I said on the podcast earlier, before the movie officially came out, me and QMG said it as well. This movie was not a Joker movie that you were expecting.
It was not a comic book accurate. It wasn't a comic book. What's the word I'm looking for? A comic book. It wasn't not even off. We can't use words. I'm not going to use those two words. That'd be a misnomer. But it was not a comic book recognizable movie. It wasn't going to be hitting you over the head with recognizable Jokerisms, but you could see that Joker being a Joker that stands on his own with the other Joker.
It's like they took Joker material and made a movie of its own movie.
Exactly.
There is nothing Joker about the Joker, but it is essentially the Joker. So I told a lot of people
just like how the Joker is, because there is no
definitive Joker.
There's no definitive way to portray the Joker outside of making him the Joker.
So if you go into the movie automatically assuming, man, I'm going to see him kill Batman's family, and Batman's going to step out of the shadow and be like, now I have to be Batman.
Or he's going to have Joker gas or all of that stuff.
Or Penguin and Bane comes out. You're not going to see any of that because you have to go into this movie kind of automatically assuming that you're just going to see any regular movie. This was no spectacular superhero epic scale battle movie,
but it was a spectacular movie.
Yes, I like the movie. As I've slept on it, I definitely like it. Like I said, I give it a 7.5 out of 10 for me personally, but I definitely like it. I wish there would have been more cat and mouse with the GCPD and Joker. It was more of just his turn into this character, and it really was a movie about mental illness.
But we will not discuss the platitudes of the movie. We will instead talk about the implications of its success.
Yes.
And boy, oh boy, does this movie's success mean a whole lot for these good old comic book movies. Because let's just skip to just make it abundantly clear. Comic book movies ain't going nowhere. It's not going nowhere.
Definitely.
With this year, Avengers Endgame and The Joker, the most opposite ends of comic book movies you could possibly get, were massively successful. Massively, unfathomably successful.
Yeah.
And the Joker
what's up?
And the Joker alone has real award credentials. We very well in January see the Joker win Best Picture or Best Director or Best Actor.
Yes.
And what that means of the Joker's success, and like we were talking about on how far away it is, it now means that we should now be seeing more comic book movies having people that are not just fans of the material, but like comic book writers have the freedom to tell the stories that they want to tell with these characters and whatever type of that they get. You know, Into the Spider-Verse was a prime example of this. It was very comic book aesthetically pleasing while also maintaining its own style and flavor, its own platitudes, and pushing the boundary of animation. You know, the first Iron Man movie and the first Superman, Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man, and Iron Man movies
were all groundbreaking.
They were all groundbreaking.
Blade, you have to take Blade into account. Blade was really good.
Blade was really good, but it wasn't groundbreaking. It was really good, but it wasn't groundbreaking.
Blade was the first.
I'm talking about what it means. I'm not talking about an awesome.
Yeah, you talking about what it means for the company. I'm
talking about the spectrum changing. Blade was like the Matrix. It was Matrix cool. It was Blade and the Matrix. They were both occupied the same space of this this
Greg Quato, appreciate y'all for tuning in.
What's up? Of this proto 2000s era of coolness. They both encapsulated that through different spectrums. With Blade being this contemporary horror action movie, and The Matrix being a contemporary sci-fi movie. I will give it credit towards that. But I'm talking about in terms of pushing the boundary, because Blade was kind of coming off the heels. It wasn't really a comic book movie, if we want to be honest with you. It was just, like I said, a contemporary horror film. It wasn't really a comic book movie. Blade 2 was more comic booky than Blade 1. And I say this as a person who just saw Blade 2 like 3 days ago. So, but that's not the here. But I'm saying that.
Fun fact, my little sister, she's 19. She texted me when Mahershala Ali got cast as Blade. She was like, "Who's that guy that played Blade in the original?" I almost reached through the phone and drop kicked her, because I'm like, don't you ever disrespect Wesley Snipes like that.
Well, she ain't seen no.
Come on, man.
You can't expect somebody. That's like saying, that's like expecting somebody to know who Gordon Ramsay is. And they
Greg, I'm sorry, somebody disrespected me. Greg, you ain't never bodied me in Street Fighter. I'm getting on tonight. Ask Cam what I did to him in Street Fighter last night. And shout out to, I'm sorry to cut you off, but keep on going. We'll discuss that in a later date.
But yeah, the Joker's success, $66 million budget, $934 million take. That has basically more than quintupled its budget, made a heck of a profit. We don't even know how much in merchandising and stuff like that as far as that goes. And it should kill any sort of implication that there's only one type of way to make a comic book / superhero movie, because it's not. It's actually, that's always been a lie. There's never been one way. Every superhero movie should feasibly be made with the intent of being completely different and original from the last, unless you're trying to tell a long-form story that requires the tone to stay relatively the same. But if you are embarking on creating something brand new that is meant to give viewers something they've never seen before, then it should absolutely be different than what anything else is being seen. And the Joker encapsulated that. Into the Spider-Verse encapsulated that. Black Panther encapsulated that. Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, The Dark Knight, Iron Man 1. That's all I can think of right now. Spider-Man 2. I can't forget about Spider-Man 2. They all brought something that there was missing. X-Men X2, Logan, all of these movies brought something that was never seen before.
Am I the only person in the world that only thinks Black Panther is a basic movie?
No, you're not, but you'd be wrong.
Black Panther was very basic to me, like on borderline, like, bro, I don't ever have to watch this movie again, almost.
Well, that's your opinion, man.
Like Killmonger was my favorite part of the whole movie. Like, everybody else was meh at best to me personally. Like, I like the lore of Wakanda. I've always liked the lore of Wakanda. But I don't know if, because Killmonger was an American character coming to a almost mythological place, which is a fictional African country, and seeing how these people didn't come, like, we were going to discuss that, but I definitely didn't feel like Black Panther was a great movie. It was good. It was alright. It ain't something I
definitely feel like it was lived up to the end. All the hype it was built to, and had nothing to do with Killmonger, because just a quick spoiler. I don't care if you're my skin color or anything else. If you don't have if you are call yourself a villain and you don't have a completely foolproof plan that encapsulates the world you live in, and you're just single-mindedly on one thing that can easily, like a Jenga piece, get pulled and have it all crumpled down, I don't care what the hell you're talking about. I don't care if you're talking about black liberation. If you're trying to conquer a technological civilization that you have no idea how to properly handle, and your plan includes killing the only other person that knows how to properly utilize it, and you think you're going to be on some revolution shit, and you ain't got no means to actually go do that revolution, because the first thing you're going to think you rolling up with them Wakanda ships, and then Trump gonna drop a nuke on Wakanda, so you didn't got the most prominent African country flapped off because you tried to be on some Malcolm X stuff that you ain't got no business being on. Yeah, and you that ain't got no respect. It sounded good because Michael B. Jordan and he was saying a whole bunch of stuff that sounded good in the vacuum, but when you sat down, like some How are you really gonna be able to accomplish it?
I agree.
And he can't. Then you just
I agree, but I'm just talking about in the realms of the movie.
I'm not disagreeing with you in your opinion.
Like this character.
I was just giving my opinion.
But with that being
that's
said,
the same thing with Magneto. You can be the master of magnetism, have the swag.
He was swag.
The swag who had with the powers, but if your plan will lead to the calling those robots that can dampen your powers and get your people murdered, and you keep impeding the people that legitimately know how to that can save the world, then who cares how right you are?
He was swag, but he has multiple times worked with him as well.
True.
But with that being said, just a brief break. You guys already know, without your love and support, this wouldn't be possible. So we would like to take the time out to thank you guys for tuning in. And you always can go watch us on YouTube, Facebook at Into the Qniverse, Facebook Geeked Up Media, Facebook, my personal Facebook, as well as Quamon Star G.
If y'all want to, he keeps promoting it. I barely do anything on the Facebook. I'd much rather you go to the Into the Qniverse
page. There we go. But all the updates also come to your page as well, though, if we have any updates on anything. So they do. But thank you guys for
I will remember to put it on Into the Qniverse more than I would do the I'm not going to try to send y'all out like that.
Oh, there you go. But yes, all the support is love and appreciated. Thank you guys constantly tuning in. But with that being said, you got anything else to say about Joker grossing $900 million?
Don't be surprised if it hits that $1 billion mark by next week. Because it hasn't even opened in China. I don't know if that's at all or it has yet to. Because if it opens up in China, it's going to hit $1 billion. Because, and this is a quick note, in America there was a lot of hoopla and nonsense about the type of people that would come out of the shadows because of the Joker movie being released. And ironically enough, the opposite has happened. There has not been no crazy people dressed up as the Joker.
Hey, Granny, appreciate you for tuning in.
Granny! And there's been no people dressing up in Joker costumes committing heinous acts. Instead, it's been people dressed up as the Joker dancing on the stairs out in the Bronx.
The Bronx has been booming with the Joker stairs, man.
and ironic twist of fate. There's been a lot of protests that's been going on around the world. There's been a lot of people dressing up as the Joker to help protest against multiple injustices in the world. Like people in Joker costumes like that.
But that goes back to what we discussed prior to after we saw the Joker movie. Me and Kumani had seen, me and QMG had seen the Joker movie, and I was discussing with him that there were going to be folks that sympathize with this specific iteration.
I don't think they sympathize with the Joker. I think they instead are smart enough to know, okay, obviously those people were stupid and not caring about and just wanted to be anarchists, but we can take this obvious fictional character who obviously has a set moral code, and instead of embracing the anarchy side, kind of do a middle finger and say, no, we're not going to be anarchists. We're going to take your symbol and try to twist it, because really they're just dressing up like clowns, and really take because to be honest, if we're being honest with you, and I've had to sit and I talk to a lot of my peeps about it who watch the Joker, and really it was kind of like if the Joker, if Arthur Fleck and the Joker, if he never spoilers, if he never kills Murray on live television, there's a very real chance, and he just offed himself like he was planning to do, and they'll come from his home. There's a very real chance that the Joker symbol could have been something positive. Like it could have, like like a clown.
Like if he murdered the guy in his hotel.
If nobody died, like if Arthur Fleck just offed himself, and they just had the image of the clown killing these two yuppies harassing this woman, and that was it.
Yes.
There would be no riots, no unnecessary loss of life, because those cops, spoilers, wouldn't have accidentally shot the guy in the train station, so it wouldn't have been no real acts of aggression. It would just been people protesting as clowns. Mm-hmm. So that's how I'm seeing it. Because nobody's trying to literally be the Joker saying the Joker was right. That's not what they're doing.
Of course not.
They're just taking the symbol and the implications of protesting against these corrupt regimes and taking that aspect, while also understanding that no, we're not clowns, evil clowns that just want to see people die. So
definitely,
that's it.
With that being said, you have any small things, but before we go into our last small topic before we get on out of here?
There's no stuff that came out of the cut that I can think of. two things in regards to two of the upcoming DC movies.
Yeah.
One, I heard that the reshoots for Birds of Prey were adding in some significant Huntress action scenes.
Okay.
Because she tested very well. The testing for Birds of Prey in period went well,
Okay.
but she was testing very well. But so they wanted to give her more stuff to do in the movie,
Yes.
and give her a significant part of the climax. Of what I heard,
Yeah.
and two, that the Batman's premise is all of the villains are going to be established in the Batman. They're not going to be like, oh, the origin story of X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
They're going to play it like every major villain, or most of his major villains you can think of, are already established, and they're playing it like, I don't know if they're specifically talking about this version of Sherlock Holmes, but Sherlock Holmes, and my mind autopiloted to Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law's Sherlock Holmes. There's with Catwoman being Irene Adler and the Riddler being Moriarty, with Batman being Sherlock and the Commissioner.
So it's
being
more because
Watson.
because we haven't had a truly detective-esque Batman. We've had Christian Bale show signs of it. But
And by signs, you mean literally seeing a stop sign 20 miles in the distance. And you don't
when he literally goes into a room with guys tied up and like,
and he's got that one drill talking about contaminating and everything. And then him with the gun, like that type of
But
sign.
we've never seen a Batman truly use their detective as the moniker being the world's greatest detective. We should see more of this detective aspect. But that was the whole thing behind Batman. He still was kind of like GCPD, but when they couldn't get the job done, he will have to go do the extra mile as the vigilante
to do, for some of his more pulp style comics.
Yes.
But yeah, it definitely sounds hype. Everything that I keep hearing about the Batman, there's been some people who were kind of iffy because they were very much attached to Ben Affleck.
Yes, I like Ben Affleck.
And the original idea for the Batman movie, but I've always been the guy who's always on board. Matt Reeves, of course, phenomenally directed the later two films in the recent Planet of the Apes trilogy. Robert Pattinson, one of the best actors that definitely has erased any type of Twilight bad taste people might have. Zoe Kravitz, Jeffrey Wright. For those two, I'm just excited to see what they're going to do as Commissioner Gordon and Catwoman, respectively.
Yeah.
So that's about it as far as the small things. But the last topic I want to talk, because we went from Marvel, now we're going to end it with DC. And I want to talk to you guys about a little thing I called the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So, how can I abridge this very long, bogus tale? So, the Justice League movie that came out in 2017 was not in any shape, form, fashion, way, anything the Justice League movie that was intended for us to see.
Yes.
The short abridged version is people cry about Batman v Superman. Warner Brothers don't know how to handle people having a negative feedback. They had overly lofty goals for the movies. They ignored the fact that the first three DCEU movies were financial successes, and while weren't $1 billion movies, were still very much turned a profit, and their home release sales were phenomenal, thus proving them to be a success. But since the people in charge were too busy trying to emulate Marvel and listening to the wrong people, as we alluded to earlier, they basically, at the first opportunity they got, decided to scrap all of Zack Snyder's plans for, well, not just his plans, his movie for Justice League. That opportunity, unfortunately, was the passing of his daughter. She committed suicide, and that family tragedy, he wanted to take some time off. And the awesome human beings, and by awesome human beings, I mean absolute pieces of trash at Warner Brothers, decided to use that to fire him.
Yeah.
And bring in Joss Whedon to...
Hey, Dre, appreciate you for tuning in, man.
What's up? They decided to bring in Joss Whedon to Marvelize Justice League. Now, initially, people, and by people I mean those who had a negative outlook on Zack Snyder and the DCEU, they were spinning it like it was something that was a positive. There, you had a lot of comic book writers show their butts about the situation, because there was articles that blatantly said Zack Snyder leaves Justice League because of family tragedy, and they would quote tweet it and quote Facebook posted with hoorays and cheers and all of that other stuff, despite literally saying family tragedy in the title. So they told you exactly what type of people that were there. Long story short, Justice League was trash.
Garbage. I hated that.
Absolutely garbage. The only reason why I initially thought it was good was because Quentin and his wife Kim had reunited after a year of just not being with each other. So I was very much like, bro. But we're not going to talk. We're not. If we
hold on. Just let me go on a tangent, just for fun.
Oh, if you're going to go on a tangent, I'm going to go on a super tangent.
Just a small tangent. You could have a small one. The movie was garbage. The movie was so trash. The best thing in the movie was by far Wonder Woman's Gal Gadot. By far the best thing in the movie. The movie was done bad. The two best scenes was Wonder Woman when she initially came out and fought the bank robbers, and 2 when Superman came back from the dead and fought the Justice League for that brief moment. 2 only good move scenes in the whole movie. Everything else was garbage. Okay. Everything else was trash. Batman, one of the best combatants in the history of the DC universe, had to fight parademons with guns. I've never seen something I dislike so much from DC in my life. The movie was horrible.
So I'm trying to resist not to expound on how trash.
Just don't go so long. But that's what she said.
But
or he.
But let's just but Ooh. All of that was not intended. Everything Q just
I appreciate that, B. He said we swag.
Thank you. Everything that Q just described legitimately was shot better with Zack Snyder on the helm. You don't believe me, you can just Google Snyder Cut, go to, if you have the phone, Vero. He posts, literally, he's been posting all of the intended pictures, the scenes, all of that stuff of what was supposed to be in Justice League. Yeah. Some of the most significant stuff cut. Cyborg was essentially supposed to be the main character. He was supposed to have an arc similar to Superman's arc in Man of Steel, where he comes to terms with himself. You were supposed to see his backstory completely fleshed out, and he was supposed to be the key to defeating Steppenwolf
because of the
mother box. Yes, yeah. Zack Snyder intended for Ray Fisher Cyborg to be virtually the center character of the film.
A lot of times, Cyborg does become, when you're dealing with like Apocalypse and Steppenwolf and all that.
I mean, like he was like, you're going to really. He really gets it, meat and cheese.
Yeah, because he has the mother box, and the mother box was the whole purpose of the whole movie. So
another thing that was cut was that Darkseid was flat-footed in the movie, like unambiguously,
like fighting him, or like how Thanos was in the original Avengers.
Like them, they literally see like him literally being in the beginning of Justice League when they're doing the history lesson with all of the. He's literally on the battlefield in that, and not only that, but they literally, after spoilers in the movie, Superman beats up Steppenwolf and he's teleported back to Apocalypse. In the Zack Snyder cut, Wonder Woman beheads him. She kills him.
Steppenwolf?
Yes, and Darkseid appears. They look at him and he says something to, like, it's not like, I don't like, it's, they're not like, he never released what Darkseid says explicitly, but it is dialogue between Darkseid and the Justice League that would set up the sequels down the line. Okay. Another major change was Batman's entire arc in the movie. Batman in this Justice League was played more so of a dude trying to fix a mistake he made in Batman v Superman. Batman in Justice League initially was meant to be basically on a suicide mission, basically moving heaven and earth to bring back Superman because of his folly in Batman v Superman, and just how not how much he failed, but he feels like but if you see Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder has expounded upon this with the nightmare scene, the way Batman interpreted is he's initiated he's the reason why the nightmare scenario happened, because he set Superman down that path by being cruel and allowing that type of self-doubt to enter in him. So his whole thing was he was going to bring Superman back by any means necessary, even if that means him dying. And spoiler, and just to give even more context, and the OG original plan for the DCEU, the reason why Ben Affleck only signed on for a small amount of movies was because Batman was meant to die in Justice League 2, sacrificing himself a la Final Crisis to protect Superman, Lois Lane, and their unborn child from Darkseid. That was
Final Crisis. That's the cover with the skeleton Batman, right?
Yeah, so Superman holding him like that. Okay. So that was the original plan. But Zack Snyder did go on to say that he had to scrap those plans after the initial reaction to BVS. So that might have changed slightly, but that was the original plan. But just know that if we were majorly screwed out of the proper Justice League film. Now, for the past 2 years now, the Snyder Cut. I would proudly say that haven't been doing a lot for the Snyder Cut, but I've definitely been up on there voicing my support of it, even through thick and thin, because that ties back to the other topic of, some people vocal minority monopolizing certain things to try to make something a bad thing when it's really not. But yeah, the Snyder Cut exists. There's been a lot of major news outlets that's tried to downplay it by saying, oh, Zack Snyder doesn't have this, the VFX isn't done, there's no way there could have been 2 movies because we heard such and such. But as the years have gone through, multiple actors, J.K. Simmons, the actor who played Steppenwolf, the multiple camera work, multiple people who shot the scene, cinematographers and storyboard artists have said, yeah, we shot this. Yeah, we storyboard this. Yes, I know for a fact that whatever Zack Snyder storyboards, he shoots along with pictures. Because Zack hasn't even seen this version of Justice League.
He didn't watch he didn't watch the version that was produced out. He said he wasn't gonna watch it.
Like he after his daughter died, he knew what happened. He said he wanted nothing to do with that version.
What movies have Zack Snyder come out with after the passing of his daughter?
None. The next movie he's coming out with is a movie. I forget the name, and I suck at forgetting it. But it's a Netflix movie. He's returning to his zombie roots. It's a zombie heist film starring
zombie heist.
Yes, it's during an apocalypse. It's about this team of mercenaries. They have to go to Vegas to steal something to get these people out.
Really?
Yes, it's got Batista in it. It got Alita in it. I'm tired, so I can't remember some of these names, and I'm really mad at it. It got a nice little cast to it with a lot of people that like working with Zack and working with it for the first time.
But yeah, Josh definitely really disappointed me with this Justice League that came out after Zack, when really he was there just to kind of fill in some of the gaps that Zack.
It wasn't filling in the gaps.
The movie was finished.
That was the lie. It wasn't filling in the gaps.
So the movie was completely finished, 100%.
The only things, and this has just, and I'm gonna get to what this is.
Yeah.
The prevailing thought, theory, rumor, whatever have you, was that the Snyder Cut existed, but the VFX wasn't done. So it was.
Didn't even need Joss at all.
It wasn't. That was the rumor, was that the VFX wasn't done and it was basically unwatchable.
Yes.
But I know people who've spoken to Ray Fisher and said that was never the case, and that the VFX that needed to be fixed up was minimal. I've spoken to people who I spoke at C2E2. I've spoken to Chris Terrio. Yes, that's who I spoke to.
Yes.
And he said that wasn't that. Don't believe everything you see and that you heard about the Snyder Cut. And he was very much ingrained with the Justice League that Zack Snyder shot. And Jason Momoa, Aquaman, Mr. Billion Dollar Momoa himself. He's seen the Snyder Cut, and he's spoken about it twice in the past 3 months. And just this week, he was doing an interview with MTV News. He was asked about the Snyder Cut. He said once again he saw it, and he said it's a complete movie. Like, there are certain things that have not been VFX'd, but it's not too big much that they can't do that and release it. And that has been the long and short of it. For the past 2 years, you have heard these journalists, use their snark and all of this, saying that the Snyder Cut doesn't exist. It's just a witch hunt. My favorite one, just a bunch of white dude Trump supporters trying to get this movie made. When I legitimately know people who know more than I do, who actually has the details but legally can't talk about it because NDAs and stuff like that. But who are not white, who are women of color, who are men of color, people of color the farthest from a white person you can get.
All of the colors who
fight for injustice, who post black lives, the farthest thing from white supremacists. I'm just gonna keep it as general as that. And they say no, the Snyder Cut exists. And that has been the prevailing thing that these major websites have been saying, that it doesn't exist. It's just fans wasting their time trying to get a bad movie scene that was already, a worse movie scene from a bad movie and all of this. And now the tide has been shifting, mostly due to Jason Momoa coming out and definitively saying, yes, the Snyder Cut exists.
So hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Hashtag release the Snyder Cut. We want a box set with Snyder on the front of it.
No, we're not. I don't want a box set. I want a theatrical release.
Oh yeah, definitely that. But I definitely want that metal case.
Yes,
of the Snyder Cut.
Because there's a lot like it's.
So it's would it be a completely different movie?
It is a completely different movie. From what, even if Jason Momoa didn't definitively say that himself, if you've been keeping up with it for the past 2 years, you know that it is a completely different movie. There is dialogue that is completely different. There are scenes, key scenes, that are completely different. Characters cut that changes the whole thing changes the whole complexion of the movie that was seen. Mm-hmm. So it's a completely different movie. It is a completely different movie entirely, and it's something that we deserve to see entirely. So Q, what are you like? So me telling you this, what is your thoughts? Because I talked to you on and on about this, but what are your thoughts on that? All of
I definitely once again, like I said, I did not like the Justice League movie we got in 2017. I thought it was horrible. I thought it was. I think I gave it like a 6 when we seen it, but then after sleeping on it, I gave it a 4. I really did not like it. Not taking nothing away from the characters, the actors. I love the actors who played their role. I didn't like the Flash that much, Ezra Miller, but hopefully he does good on his second go round. But as far as knowing that there's a potentially better version out there, it leaves me wanting to see it. Like almost a need to see this other version to see if another producer or director with the same kind of guidelines to stick by, but also still being able to create their own creation, could do a better job than what we got at the end product. Because obviously there's aspects that could have been way better. So I'm not far out saying that there is a producer that can't do better, because definitely there can be after what we got. But I would love to see with the same characters, same actors, same storyline, and same guidelines you got to follow, that what could they do with that material. So there's definitely
it's not even a different. It's the person that should have spearheaded it from the jump. It's Zack Snyder. It's that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, Joss definitely dropped the ball.
And I will give, and it's like the two biggest examples of Warner Brothers dropping the deuce is Suicide Squad, a movie I personally love.
Yeah, I like Suicide Squad.
And a movie I accept in both its regular cut and I have the extended cut too.
Suicide Squad.
But Suicide Squad is another example of that, because David Ayer just today dropped a scene from Suicide Squad that was from the often talked about but not shown at all original climax of the film that involves the Joker. The Joker coming back. I know if you've seen any of the earlier trailers, you saw a scarred up Joker with a gun in the same scene area where they fought Enchantress, and that wasn't a cut scene just for trailers. That was legitimately intended to be the climax. And it was like, and David Ayer talked about this in multiple interviews, but Suicide Squad originally was meant to be a Harley Quinn liberation story. It wasn't never meant to end with the Joker breaking her out. No. It was meant to be Harley Quinn leaving the Joker, and then that would have led into Birds of Prey, because just a quick history lesson. Birds of Prey was meant to be directed by David Ayer. Margot Robbie wanted David Ayer to do Birds of Prey. No, she wanted him to do Gotham City Sirens. Mm-hmm. That was supposed to be the movie. But then when Suicide Squad did the numbers but not the critical reception, Warner Brothers ran them off of Gotham City Sirens. And then they tried to do a regular old Harley Quinn movie and then a Harley Quinn versus Joker movie. But then Margot Robbie pushed back and she said, okay, what if we do a Birds of Prey movie but we have Harley Quinn in it, and then we go from there. And that's how we ended up with Birds of Prey.
And that brings up a lot of questions that I'm not really sure on and don't understand. Why was there such a hard push to get Jared Leto's Joker out of the scene when I personally thought he did as good? And with knowing that scenes were cut, I think he added a nice layer to the story and wasn't bad. His acting wasn't bad. Well, his character was not a bad character. I think coming off the heels of, is he going to be Jared Leto? I mean, Heath Ledger. I think that kind of soured his character. Now, that does not excuse him for what's been coming out about him kind of like trashing Joaquin Phoenix's
that's all been disproven in lie. David Ayer has spoken about that because that was quote on when this Joker movie has been developed as early as the Suicide Squad.
And that's what goes into what I'm saying. Why do you feel like Jared Leto's Joker has taken so much flack from all these producers and all these critics? And if you want to go back and watch his scenes and see how Jared Leto created that character, it's not too much different. He was more akin to the actual Joker than Joaquin Phoenix's character was.
Okay, so I'm gonna be as blunt and as honest as I possibly can, and you can believe me or not, or agree with me or not. But there is a very real bias against the DCEU in those early DCEU films and the people who ride for those movies.
Yes.
Zack Snyder is the biggest example of that. Genuinely beloved director. He has no scandal to his name. No, every time he shoots a movie, it is well documented that every person that works on that film, from the high rank to the low ranks, loves him because of his attention to their needs, their wants, the way he treats them. He's just an awesome human being based off of what these people talk about him. And yet, for some reason, there are people who decide that he's an asshole and that he's too much. They throw a lot of words onto his name that aren't applicable. If you truly know if you truly have an understanding of what those actual people are.
Yes.
The same thing goes for Jared Leto. There's been many malicious rumors. Oh, he dates underage women. That was a lie. That he was trashing the set and giving these gifts maliciously to the actors. That was a lie. That he was all of these other things. It was done because, and they'll deny it and they'll swear up and down, but there's proof that that's contrary. There were websites that just did not like the DCEU and would use anything against them to trash them. And Jared Leto was a casualty of that because of the initial promotional picture and then the lies that were spread about him. Because Jared Leto is not bad in Suicide Squad. Objectively, you might not have liked that interpretation of the Joker, but if you just have to sit there and watch it objectively and put it in the same league.
Kyle, appreciate you for tuning in, man.
It's not bad. It might not be the Joker you're used to seeing, but if it is a Joker that is menacing, that for the little bit he's in that movie, he's menacing, he's dangerous, and he's what I would imagine a Joker to be. Yeah. But there is such a strong bias.
Hey, Eric, thanks for tuning in.
Especially in those early DCEU movies because they wanted Marvel, they wanted MCU but DC. And when they didn't get that, they successfully, unfortunately, bullied DC into thinking that was the correct way, which gave us Justice League, and then that flopped. And then people tried to write the DCEU off as a failure, and then Aquaman and Shazam came out and proved that otherwise. So now they're just...
Aquaman was boss. I miss with Aquaman.
But yeah, that's the reason why people come so hard on Jared Leto, because they have a bias, and they would rather spread rumors to get him out of here than actually be on the up and keep it 100. So it sucks. It 100% sucks, and I do feel like he got a raw deal with the Joker.
So are we ever going to see this Jared Leto Joker again?
I hope so. I unfortunately don't think it's any plausibility at this moment. It all depends on Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. Because DC's internally, from what I've heard, DC's plan is to have a Harley Quinn movie every year starting next year. It's to have Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey, then Suicide Squad, then Gotham City Sirens, then Birds of Prey versus Gotham City Sirens.
Yeah, definitely, Eric. Definitely, that's what we were discussing earlier in the podcast. This Joker movie was definitely more of a realistic twist. That's definitely what they wanted to go for, a more realistic style to the Joker. Even though the Joker doesn't have any definitive origin story, they wanted to make it more realistic. But yes, with that being said, we're going to close it on down for tonight. Once again, before we get on out of here, thank you guys for tuning in. The love and support. We do this because of my geeks and gamers in the Qniverse. Thank you guys. Thank you. And you always can go find us on the Into the Qniverse page. You always can go find us on YouTube at Into the Qniverse. And you can also find us on my personal Facebook page. And go and like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever you guys want to do, because we do this for you geeks and gamers. So we love the support, and you already know this was Into the Qniverse, where we talk to you guys about everything geeky, gamey, and nerdy. We're signing out. Peace.
Game over.